Hashihime was walking angrily on the road when she saw a woman holding a newborn baby. Both the woman and the baby were covered in blood. The candle on Hashihime's head illuminated the woman's face. It turned out to be the famous Yoni. Hashihime was jealous of the man's infidelity, but the Yoni had a special feeling for the baby. The Yoni is also known as the Guhuo bird. Legend has it that it originated in China and later spread to Japan. Hashihime and the Yoni have many similarities. Both are related to Minamoto no Reikao. Minamoto no Reikao met Hashihime in Uji and the Yoni in Mino. People in Mino told Minamoto no Reikao that there was a monster called the Yoni at the ferry crossing of the Sumida River. The Yoni was also known as the Guhuo bird. As long as there were people at the ferry crossing, he would appear holding a child. While the child was crying, the Guhuo bird said to the people on the boat, "Help me hold the baby." Because of the shrill and terrifying voice, people who heard it fled, so until now, no one has seen the true face of the Yoni. Facing this monster, one of Minamoto no Reikao's retainers volunteered to find out. The samurai was called Sakegami Jimen. Jimen rode his horse to the ferry, but he saw nothing. He only heard the sound of the river flowing and the wind. As Jimen rode across the river, a foul smell suddenly blew. Before Jimen could think whether someone had given birth, he heard a woman shouting, "Help me hold the child, help me hold the child." Jimen hid the child in his sleeve and immediately continued to cross the river, but the Guhuo bird chased him while shouting, "Give me back the child." Jimen refused to return the child to the woman who gave birth, shook her hand and rode away. Back at his residence, Jimen told everyone that he had captured the woman's son. Everyone came out with lights, but when Jimen opened his sleeves, they did not see the baby, but a pile of dead leaves. The legend of the woman who gave birth is different in different places. In Kyushu, the woman who gave birth would appear on rainy nights. At first, you would see some birds the size of gulls and hear their cries. Then, they would change into human form and appear holding a child. In Iga province, the woman who gave birth was called the night walker, the emperor girl, or the ghost bird. In addition, in places with heavy snowfall, the birthing woman is related to snow, but not the snow woman, because the snow woman does not hold a child. Why does the birthing woman appear as a woman holding a child? According to the description in Girls and Laughters written by Kitamura Juni, the birthing woman is a vengeful spirit that is transformed from a dead mother, with a pair of breasts exposed on her chest, and likes to take other people's children and raise them as her own. In the past, because the rates of miscarriage, difficult labor, and maternal and infant mortality were much higher than in modern times, the legend of the birthing woman also reflected this phenomenon to some extent. Until the Meiji period, a newspaper reported an incident of a birthing woman. The day before the report, a woman carrying the body of a baby appeared in Genryucho, Nihonbashi district, Tokyo. The woman's name was Eicho, and she lived in Chitsukacho, Asakusa district. The dead baby was the biological child of her and her husband Moto Yoshi. Moto Yoshi was originally a rickshaw driver, but due to the economic downturn, he gave up this job and went to work at the telecom needlework manufacturing factory. However, surprisingly, Moto Yoshi abandoned Eicho and no one knew where he hid. Yuanji and Akang were brothers who died of hereditary syphilis. Akang carried her dead child and searched for Yuanji everywhere. Although we cannot know whether Akang finally found Yuanji due to the limitations of historical materials, we know that there is a story about Guhuo bird, which means that a woman appeared by the river with a child. However, in a report in the Meiji period, the plot was a little different, and the story was combined with the strange stories of Sadako, Hanako in the toilet, and Guhuo bird. On September 18, 1910, there was a report titled Ghosts by the Well Seeking Injustice. The protagonist was Takejiro, and the location was Itabashi Town, Toshima County, Tokyo Prefecture. The whole story started more than 10 years ago. Takejiro was a carpenter who had long been obsessed with a woman near him. Her name was Kashiwagi Suzuko. One day, Takejiro took advantage of Suzuko's mother not being at home, entered the house, and forced Suzuko to have sex, and then the two had sex frequently. One day, Suzuko had abdominal pain and found that she was pregnant, so she told the man. However, Takejiro had no intention of taking responsibility and disappeared from then on. Lingza's belly gradually grew bigger and was eventually discovered by her mother. Lingza's mother, Ahao, blamed Lingza, but decided to put the two together to cover up the matter, and asked someone to inform Takejiro. However, the rapist Takejiro not only refused to admit it, but also told Ahao that Lingza's lovers were like crucian carp crossing the river. How could he know that the child in her belly was mine? After hearing about this, Lingza still went to Takejiro's house at night, hoping that he would take her in. But unexpectedly, Takejiro said to her, "If I marry you, I will be cuckolded in the future, and I can't wear it all. Since you can be so good to me, you can also be like this with others." In the face of Takejiro's harsh words, Lingza did not back down and resolutely defended her innocence. However, Takejiro was unshakable and blamed Lingza for being fickle and born a cheap bone. He threatened Lingza that if she didn't leave, he would loudly publicize it outside and shame Lingza in the market. Then, Takejiro pushed Lingza out of the house and closed the door. At this time, Lingza was very angry. She remembered that she lost her virginity by Takejiro instead of voluntarily. However, she did not get his love or fair treatment, but was hurt by his bad words. Lingza thought, if she went back like this, how would she face her parents and neighbors? If she remarried, how would she face her new husband? Lingza thought that all the evil was caused by Takejiro. Lingza made up her mind that even if she died, she would become a ghost to kill Takejiro. So she jumped into the well behind Takejiro's house and ended her life. Lingza's mother, Ahao, could not wait for her daughter to come home, and she was so worried that she could not sleep all night. The next morning, she learned that her daughter had committed suicide by jumping into the well. When Ahao went to identify her daughter's body, people saw the scene and shed tears for the tragedy of Ahao and Lingza. Because Takejiro was unwilling to pay for the funeral expenses, Lingza could only be wrapped in a straw mat and buried in a hurry. After the funeral, Lingza's mother, Ahao, did not know where she went. Every night, from dusk onwards, the sound of Suzuko's sad cries could be heard in the well behind Takejiro's house. As long as it rained, the cries became more obvious. The well where Suzuko committed suicide became a place that people were reluctant to approach. Suzuko jumped into the well in mid-August 1898, 13 years after the time of this report, and Takejiro's life had changed a lot in the past 13 years. The following year, Takejiro got married. His wife's surname was Takahashi, and his brother Takahashi Fukutaro was an optician. Mrs. Takahashi and Takejiro's mother were not on good terms, and Takejiro couldn't stand her mother, so he moved to live somewhere else. When Takejiro's mother heard about it, she chased after her to her new residence. Takejiro was so scared that he hid in the toilet. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered, he saw the disheveled ghost of Suzuko. When Takejiro tried to escape, he accidentally fell into the toilet and fell into a coma. Takejiro looked strange, just like when Suzuko fell into the well, but he was not dead. After Takejiro moved away, his wife Takahashi became pregnant and gave birth to a daughter a few days later. The daughter was hanging horizontally on her belly, and she also looked like Suzuko, who committed suicide. Poor Takahashi died 3 days after giving birth. When Takejiro held a funeral for his wife, the ghosts of Suzuko and Ao appeared above the well, and they kept laughing. Takejiro was very scared, so he invited monks to chant sutras and remarried. Takejiro's new wife was Takahashi's sister Kikyuko. However, on the 13th anniversary of Suzuko's death, Takejiro's wife Kikyuko was struck by lightning and died. Then Ao appeared and said, "Suzuko, you died so tragically," and then disappeared. In this story, Takejiro's wife is like the Guhuo bird, but she was cursed and died immediately, unlike the Guhuo bird that wandered by the river. But from previous news and reports, the image of the Guhuo bird has been associated with women who have a difficult childbirth and the umbilical cord. Outside of Japan, even 20 or 30 years ago, we often heard that women died of difficult childbirth. Guhuo bird can be said to be a gathering place for the resentment of women who died of dystocia. Imagine if you were pregnant for 10 months but lost your child in the end, you would definitely be obsessed with the life that you had worked so hard to conceive but lost. And for those who unfortunately died in the final production process, if they knew about it in the underworld, they would definitely have some resentment and regret, which is human nature. In the modern society with advanced science, the probability of death from dystocia is decreasing year by year, but it also brings new problems, that is, parents cannot give proper care after the child is born, which eventually leads to many social ethical tragedies. There may be fewer women giving birth in today's era, but the entanglement and resentment of modern women about childbirth only exist in another form.